Is tension simmering beneath the surface of your team? Join us as we explore how to identify, address, and even harness tension to drive better results. In this episode, we tackle the often uncomfortable topic of handling tension on your team. We emphasize that tension isn't always negative and can be a catalyst for growth. We discuss identifying symptoms of tension, understanding the root causes, and implementing strategies for resolution. Tune in to hear our perspectives on wartime versus peacetime leadership and empowering your team to embrace challenges. Now, on to the episode.
Welcome back to the Profit School Podcast. This is the Business Unfiltered edition, a conversation between myself, Mercer, and of course, my buddy, my pal, my partner in not so much crime, Jeff Sauer. So today we are talking about handling tension on your team, Mr. Sauer, as is our tradition. When you're thinking about handling tension on our team, what's that topic sort of mean to you?
Yeah, so we did an episode number 84 about I to we and how we handled some of our conflict and some of our tension and how we resolved it. And I think we are in a pretty good spot there. We're getting more comfortable with handling that and addressing things straight on. But that has to permeate through your organization. It's not just about the two owners or the founders or people who are executives. It's about everybody. How do you do this as an organizational strategy? How do you do this in a way that helps your company get better? And I think that's what we're going to unpack here. Is that what you're thinking as well?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's when you've got that team where just something's just amiss, something's not quite firing in all cylinders. There's a little bit of tension. That could be unease. There could be nervousness. I guarantee this is going to increase over time, especially over the next few years with AI, because that's adding a lot of tension to people's mindset right now. Like, do I still have a job if what their job used to be was writing blog posts and creating slides, and now that's a lot of AIable stuff. So there's some tension I think people feel like when it's there. There's also the interpersonal tensions when I think somebody says, well, I did my job, but they didn't do theirs, right? That sort of thing. And how do we deal with that? So that's what we can chat about, and we can dive into sort of, I think first thinking about maybe what some of the symptoms are of tension that are on a team. So I just pointed out two. One would be kind of those people who are a little nervous about their future as companies roll in automation and AI and kind of come in that adding it as an actual layer, as an actual tool that it's supposed to be in the organization. I think that will be tension. And I also think there is that interpersonal tension where you've got to work on individuals sort of maybe operating a little too independently, not so much as a team. And that can cause the tension, right? Even if they're rock stars, but the rest of the team isn't, or something like that. Any other examples of maybe symptoms of tension on a team that you can think about? And here's where I'm going with this. It'd be symptom first, because that's what everybody sees. And they think that's the problem, but it's often not, right? So first is you see the symptom, then it's like, okay, what's actually causing this? That's where you present the solution.
Yeah, I mean, immediately comes to mind when a result doesn't meet the expectation. So like when you fail on something compared to expectations or diverting expectations, Mercer thinks one thing's going to happen, Jeff thinks another thing's going to happen, and a team member thinks another thing's going to happen. And so you're not even on the same page. Missing deadlines is a really big one. Like that causes a lot of tension, and it puts a lot of people out. Demanding people be better, just being demanding to say you can do better than this thing. You can do much better than this. This isn't your best work, or this is not even up to your standards. And
do you count that as poor performance, or do you count that as, hey, you're good, but you should have done better? Like,
I think, ultimately tension is like, is this our best effort? And addressing that because people feel personally called out. Yeah. So like they think that's where the tension happens. Like if I call somebody out and say, hey, this isn't the best stuff. Like, do we do that in a public forum? Do we do it privately? How do you get that across to let people know that it's there? And then who takes, not even taking blame, but who takes accountability for when things are not happening how you want it to happen? Like those are all reasons for tension. Even just, you said something to me the other day offline, just about how team members have said to you, I knew that wasn't going to work. And like, that's tension to me, like knowing that it wasn't going to work, but still going through with it. That is like the ultimate form of tension. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves, bugaboos that there is in the world, is like somebody doing something when they didn't think it was going to work. I think that's a lack of accountability. Like that is so bad that somebody would go through with that. And it's like, why did you do it then? Like, why didn't you speak up? And why did you do these things? And there's the answer that because I didn't want to, because I thought you knew what you're doing or whatever. That is like, I don't want that person on my team. That's a yes man or woman, and that is not
Yeah.
a good place to be.
Yeah. It's
So those are a
dangerous.
few that
Yep.
come to my mind.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like I love the one about the expectations not being set properly, because I think that when you see that as a symptom, it is, why did you do it like that, right? That's what it comes out as, is like, what, why, how did you arrive at this is what you thought I wanted, and that is because that's the symptom, and the problem is, okay, expectations weren't set properly, and it's expectations around one word, which I am saying a lot in our company right now, which is results, results, results. What is the end result of this? Also ties in very much with the AI training that we're now doing, because that has absolutely unlocked our organization. But the idea is getting very, very, very clear on results, because that's how you set the expectation. Is like, here's what the result should be. Here's what it should be able to do. Here's how it should operate. Here's what we should be able to get from it. Like all these different aspects of what a result is, so that the team member properly understands it. That should lessen the tension, right, as they're going through. The idea of missing deadlines, I think, is a great symptom of tension on a team, and I think that problem is productivity reporting. The solution to that is productivity reporting versus traditional project management, where everyone's babysitting everybody, right? So I see that. I love the idea of you pulling out that concept of not giving your best, but they never see it like that. That's actually what the problem is. What they think they're doing is making your life easier for some reason by almost hedging their bets and going, well, I'm only going to give 80. Like, I don't fully believe in this, but I'm going to try my best. But if you don't fully believe in something, you cannot try your best. You won't do it. There is no best available because you don't believe in it, right? So if that's happening, that you're not going to get the result that you wanted. And again, I think that goes back to, okay, let's really talk about the result and define that, because I think that could get a lot of attention. And then the other kind of corollary to that, and this is where I'll wrap it up and send it back to you, is it's the idea of not committing to the result, but instead committing to the activity, which is a different way of saying what you said, right? When somebody's like, well, I didn't think it was going to work, but they're very committed to the activity that they're going to do, even though they don't think it's going to be particularly useful, or it may not. And I'm not talking about somebody who's like, hey, we're not sure if it's going to work, because that's welcome to life. This is just what business is, right? No one's sure if it's going to work, right? If it was, we would all be pre-spending all the money we would make, right? But we don't do that because we're never 100% sure. That's not a thing. But we do have to act as if it is 100% possible this is going to work. You have to think like that and then commit to it. And if they're not committed to achieving the result, but instead they're focused on the activity, people they don't adjust their plan, and they go, well, you didn't tell me otherwise, so I just kept doing the same thing. It's like, well, did you see that we weren't going in the right direction? Well, yeah. Well, aren't your hands on the steering wheel? Well, yeah. But no one told me to change how I was driving. But do you know right now how we're driving through the fields and not on the road anymore? Like, don't you think as a driver that would be something you would want to steer back on the road for? And sometimes they just don't realize that. And that sounds really weird to describe it like that, but that is exactly what's happening. When they see that, they instantly go, oh my God, you're totally right. And they fix it. But that's because they were, at that point, they're committed to being on the road, which is the result. They're not committed to driving, which is the activity. And they sort of, they pull out of their sort of heads down mode. They kind of look up and they're like, oh, wait a second, this is the wrong direction. And they can self-change plans, which would reduce the tension, type of things. That's sort of my little tirade on those, or how I was thinking about it. Does that resonate at all, or anything else pop
Oh
up?
yeah, so much. I wrote down leadership versus autonomy as sort of like a sum of like how we look at that. Like, and this is something we've had some challenges with, and that is we are always there. We're very giving people, both you and I. We teach people. We always try to teach people how to be self-sufficient, because that's what we do in our day job, and that's how we got here. But and we've been talking about this again offline. Is like sometimes we just need to lead, though, and leading means giving them tension, actually being the source of tension, and questioning their autonomy, and questioning the results, and questioning things, and being more open about that. Because if you can't do that, then it's just going to continue on that way. And I think that we're at a weird point in the world right now where what you did 2 years ago or even 12 months ago doesn't work as well now. Like, everything is like a declining return. And so just having team members continue to do the same thing, expecting the same or better results, is not really realistic now. And so if the results aren't happening, you got to be like, hey, we need to fix this thing. We need to be better. You need to be in charge of that result versus the activity, like you said. And that takes away their autonomy for how they used to do it. And that is tense because they have to level up. They have to learn stuff. They have to unlock. And so what we've been doing a lot of lately is instead of teaching somebody how to do something, we we lead them into getting the result themselves and being more self-sufficient. And it's been huge. Like we're seeing people who in the past like said they were going to do stuff for a long time. By challenging them and giving them the autonomy, but also leading them, they're doing better. So like for example, I took somebody who used to write blog posts for us by the word, and then we used our this result system that we're talking about. And I said, this isn't very good. Like this isn't very good. I'm not blaming you, but I'm blaming the result. This is objectively not very good. Like
Yeah.
even if we ran it through, like we're using AI to grade stuff, objective, like nobody would say this is good. And I said, but if you did this, this, and that, watch that video again if you need to. But if you look at this thing, you are going to get a better result. And sure enough, they did that, and they got a better result. And now they're empowered, and they're like getting significantly better. We're talking about with people around video. Hey, we could tell you what we think is a good video, but why don't you go and research what a good video is? Why don't you go research what works on a short video? How the hooks work? Like why don't you learn these things? And what we're doing is we're leading them to say, it boils down to these three things. Just make sure these three things are addressed. So we're giving them a better framework, I guess you could say, in order to operate in their role. But we're causing that tension by leading them to do better. And that's something that we hadn't been doing previously. Like we're creating, I think, good tension, but in some ways that good tension comes from like what forced the issue is something I want to talk about, and that is when we've had some promos that didn't do very well, or we had time where we were building something and we didn't do a promo, and that makes cash flow a little bit tighter, and that makes you be more of like a wartime leader than a peacetime leader. So I think last year we were really peacetime leaders because it's like, hey, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We're merging companies. We're doing all these things. Let's just go and execute the plan. But now it's like, oh, we're gonna demand excellence, and we're gonna go forward because there's AI coming, and you better embrace it. And then also the way that our entire business model is potentially in question if we can't figure it out. So we need to go figure this thing out. We need to get the result that's there. And so we're having to force tension sooner, which I think is really good. And the funny thing is, like, maybe we didn't do it because we didn't want to bother you or me, or we didn't want to ruin relationships. But every relationship has strengthened because we are introducing that tension. It
Yes.
might be uncomfortable, might be tenuous for a while, but everybody is stepping up because of this thing because we're demanding it. So it's really interesting that like we were sort of avoiding tension for various reasons. Now that the hand is forced, we have to have tension, and everybody's stepping up, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think tension is. I do think that tension feels negative, right, as a word, and it typically often is associated with that. But you're right. There is such a thing as good tension. Even when you go back, going back to that concept of defining the result very, very clearly produces tension but it's good tension because you understand what the definition of good is. And the limits, the things that are limit, what defines what the result is like, oh, if I'm outside of the result, there's going to be bad tension. If I'm in that result, it's good tension. I'm achieving what I need to do, which is really good. I think the wartime versus peacetime scenario is interesting too, because it was funny because I thought you were going to say last year was wartime, so not peacetime, and because there was so much that we had to learn as we were going, right? In terms of like, okay, we're going to combine these companies. We've got these completely uniquely different teams that have uniquely different systems that kind of do the same thing, but also don't do the same thing, right? In terms of courses and content and things like that. And how do we combine the best of everything and get everybody in the right spot and see who's going to, have the different resources that everyone's got available to help propel the organization forward in the best way that we can, while we are essentially running two cars down the highway, working toward building it. So by the time we arrive at our destination, it's just the one car now. And and it's like, and we're going 75 miles an hour. And it winds in your face and you're dropping tools. And you're like, oh, we got to figure out how to do it without the screwdriver now, and just all the other stuff that was going on. So for me, that felt like, that wartime, like, okay, we're gonna do what we can right now to get us across the finish line, but I can only see the next 2 weeks, of a finish line. I can't see a year worth, down that way. Um, but I agree with you on the good tension. I think people have absolutely up leveled on the team. Everybody is doing and has been, I think, over the course of the year. They've been growing in their skill set. They've been taking more on. Yes, is that more tension to them? Sure, but it's good tension. It's empowering tension because you have the control. You've got the ability. You can make up your own mind, and you can use everybody's resources, right, including the owners, including us. All the team members know this. Like, we're here to help and support them in any way possible. And there's going to be tension to that because we want to get the result there, and that's just challenge. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And I think if it flips into bad, it depresses somebody's resources. Then they don't have all their resources in their head because they're so freaked out over stuff. And that's the thing I think we need to make sure is rooted out on our team. So that true definition of the negative sense of tension, of like, where is somebody underperforming, but it's not because they're choosing to underperform. They're underperforming because they just don't, from their perspective, they're performing at 100% of their resource level, but they only have half the resources available. So that from their perspective, they're burning everything they can, but there's half their resources are dealing with tension stuff and worries and all those other things that's not useful for getting the result. And I think our job as a manager and leadership, to your point, is to get in there and say, okay, let's see this. Let's talk about this. What is and for me, it's always the system things. Like, what is a series of beliefs or structures or whatever that's causing this? That's how I see it. Is there's some other pattern that's causing that as a result, and dig into that a little bit. Why are you thinking that? Why did you not speak up? If you knew this was something that probabilities was not going to work, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you ask? Right. And then it goes into confidence. Okay, well, how can we help them be more confident that they can ask? And it's like, well, because your job is not to get your result. Your job is to help get the team the result. Right. And you're not just individual player, like, especially with small businesses. I think that's a massive difference between small business and enterprise and corporate. Corporate can absolutely afford to have those players on the team who just want to do their own little job and stay independent and don't want to touch anybody else. That's awesome. In small businesses, we call that person a vendor. That's what a vendor is. They're not a team member. Team members have to be able to adjust, do different things, handle what they can, and in a small business, you need everybody firing on all cylinders as much as possible. So a bit of a word salad there, I'm sure, but that's sort of how I'm thinking about tension. And the idea to find it is to help unlock the people. And that's really what I was just trying to riff off of with when you said, like, tension was good because it forced everybody. It doesn't force, that's the wrong word. They naturally grew. It was like fuel for them. It's like, hey, this is going to be a little more tense, but a whole lot better. Like, yeah, it feels a little more real, not tense, but real. Like, oh, I can do something now. I can make this thing happen. And keeping it on that side of the line is really important. When it goes to its pressure, maybe to use a different word instead of tension, that idea of I've got too much pressure now and I can't perform because I'm too concerned about the pressure and not enough concerned about the result, of that I should get. So, I don't know if that helps at all.
No, I like it. You touched on a few things that I wanted to that just triggered a few thoughts for me. One is you said that corporate, it's more stable, they can stay in their function. And I was about to say for now. That's what I think.
Yeah, so true for now. They're all about to be AI'd out. That's exactly right, man. That's
if you want to stay in your functionality, that you're the number one person at risk. Like, absolutely. And we've already seen it. Like, this is going, this episode at this point, they've done a lot of that. They're starting to. I don't know where it's at by the time this episode goes live, but they've been trying to gut the government, and then they're trying to gut companies. Like, I'm seeing layoffs left and right,
and developers especially, right? Because they are. That's a perfect use case of the person who just does their code, and that's all they do, and they don't need to work with other people, and they just make sure the widget does its thing. Well, that's in process, which is awesome, but also heavily AIable. And you got companies like Facebook saying we're not hiring developers anymore. We just don't even need that.
Well, and I think, and it's going to be such a dog eat dog world where A players are all that you're going to need anymore. And that's, people have been saying that forever. Like, we need A players, we only need A players, but that hasn't been very realistic in any organization. But all you need is A players now, because an A player leveraging AI is a 1,000x. A B player could maybe be 100x, and a C player is just themselves.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're 2x, right? Maybe they're just doing rudimentary things. Like, so they just don't, the gap is going to get bigger. So you have to be an A player. And I would say anybody who says I'm only going to do my job and that's it is already a C player in my point of view.
Yeah.
Unless they're because even if they say I'm only going to do my job and that's it, but they're exceptional, they wouldn't even say that. They would just say, yeah, I'll take on anything, right? And I want to be
Yeah,
more
that's
efficient. I want
exactly
to be
very
better.
true.
That
Yep.
already makes them an A player. Like C
Yep.
player is like I'm just doing my job. That's already a C player, right? Um, and you were saying something that like people are already, thinking that they're already doing it great. Like people are reaching 100%, but they're reaching 100% of their blind spots, their capabilities, and this is where we're using tension is to let them know that they're capable of more. Which is
Yeah.
honestly just like as a parent now, like I have to tell my kid that he can do more, and I don't expect that he's just gonna like disown me as a parent. Like, and as a business owner, it's the same thing. Like I have to tell people they can do better because otherwise they're not going to. They're going to think they're just killing it. And also they're not. If they leave, that's fine, but that's probably not going to happen. If we make them better, they're going to look at us as the one who helped them, see the light and get better. And maybe that tension and maybe that telling them they can do better it'll trigger the Peter principle, which you've probably heard of this one before. I was just making sure that I got the facts right. It's a book from 1969 that says that in the concept of management, the hierarchy of people, they tend to rise to their level of incompetence.
Yeah. This is Peter Drucker. Is that what that
No,
is
it's
from?
Lawrence Peter wrote the book.
Oh, Lawrence Peter. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and so it's pretty, basically like everybody will get promoted until their level of incompetence and then they're
Yeah.
swimming. Well, that's going to be different now because you can just be better automatically because all your blind spots are filled by AI. Basically, it used to be that you could get, you could be a good employee, a B employee just by using Google search. And in fact, I used to test for that all the time. Can somebody Google the answer? I don't really care if they know the answer. Like I don't care if they memorize anything. Memory fails people. You always say that too. Like memory is worthless in
Yep.
this world, but can they solve problems? And then and Google's a problem solver. AI is a problem solver. If they're not using Chat GPT to verify their answer before it comes to us, then what are they doing? And the funny thing is now that we're doing that, Mercer, we're getting better results. We had somebody on our team who we just said use AI for the problem, and they gave a better result than I could have. I'm getting better results from our team after training them how to do this than we could have ever done on our own, and it's getting
Yeah.
done faster. So it's
Yeah.
like the capability capacity thing, which we talked about in episode 98. It's like now everybody has infinite capability and everybody has infinite capacity. Think about all the cool things we can build together in that paradigm, right?
Exactly
That's
right.
amazing. So I have another one that I wanted to just go because I think that you're going here too, but we still have tension still because we're still figuring it out, but it usually comes down to roles and responsibilities. And that is that the org chart has not been perfectly defined by us and instituted into the company, right? It's still fluid as we're figuring out people, where they go. This is a year into our merger, right? Like the org chart is still being finalized or it's near final, right? And until that happens, it won't ever, there will be natural tension in that because people are like, that's not my job, or they don't even know what their job is or what department they're in. So that's a big source of our tension right now. The other thing is something's important to one department but not to the other. That's a big thing that we need. That's going to be like our big thing to sort through. Is like, I'm big on let's get social going, let's get these things going. Really important to me, but until it gets activated into another department, like into our systems department, it just sits there. It goes nowhere. And so it's like these things, and then it's like systems and everybody else is like, hey, we need to sell this thing. Offers, go do this thing. And it's like, yeah, we can do that, but we need the support there. So I think that's the next thing is the interplay between these things. I think that departments give you like you don't really have as much like each silo doesn't have that much tension, but breaking down the silos and sharing between things is the next level of tension, which will get the next level of result. And I'm looking forward to making that the thing that we solve. And because that'll
Yeah.
solve for roles and responsibilities, that'll solve for everybody's working on the same thing together. Because the silos, until you can break those things down, you're not going to get the result you're looking for. So you have
Yeah.
a solution to that too, which I'm really excited about. But that's my thought.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. We just recently had evolved this. Like in the profit school system, we have ops, right? So offers, products, and systems kind of departments, and then we started breaking out team results. So there's traffic team whose job it is to make sure that eyeballs are getting to offers. There's the funnels team whose job it is to make sure the funnels are up and being optimized. There's the fulfillment team who's producing products either for customers that are internal or external. So either the members like a Google Analytics course or whatever it is, or profit school trainings, things like that, or it's lead magnets or images they need for that offers team might need to produce, or the funnels team, like I said, might need for the funnels, something like that. And then there's the experience team, which is making sure that the again internal and external customers are both happy. So it's making sure like traditional sort of customer support questions all the way to like you said, the system stuff, making sure that the gears are moving along and they're not grinding together and throwing out sparks, and we can make sure everybody's getting their things done naturally in the best possible way. The one thing we have done that helps, I think, is going to be a major thing in helping break down those walls is making sure that on every single one of those sort of results teams, again, traffic, funnels, fulfillment, and experience, is that you have every department there represented. So there's an offers team, there's a products team, there's offers department, products department, system department. People from those departments are on each team, so they can now work amongst each other to achieve the overall result that their team's supposed to get. But they're coming at it from an offers perspective or a products perspective or a systems perspective. So hopefully that'll help. The other thing that I wanted to sort of get your opinion on, and then we'll kind of close out for final thoughts, but that idea of the tension that I think, and this goes back, I'm going to reverse what I said now, because I'm starting to understand your wartime versus peacetime sort of CEO was comfortable is not the right word. We weren't comfortable with where we were, but I want to say that. I want to say like at some level we were comfortable or complacent, and it sounds more negative than it's meaning, because it's not really what I mean, but it's that same feeling. And we needed something that could kind of whack us on the side of the head and knock us out of the rut that I think we were getting into on certain things. And that was same thing that we're doing, like when we help a smaller business with the profit school, where there's a freelancer doing a 6-figure business is trying to grow it and figure out how to use AI now and expand their business, or one that's maybe it's got 400,000 or 500,000, they're trying to get over that million mark. We're helping them grow by helping them learn those lessons at this level. But where do we go to or learn our lessons for our level? And so we have other groups that we're a part of, and I think that's an important thing for whether you're on the freelancer side, you're maybe just at the 6-figure mark, or at the well over millions mark. You need to go into a group of others like you, where you're not the smartest person in the room, you're not the biggest company in the room, and preferably you're on the bottom 20%, which is a comfortable, uncomfortable place to be, because that creates tension, because you go like, wow, we're thinking small. We thought we were thinking big, and we were for our $100,000 selves, we're thinking huge. But for the $1 million selves we are now, we're not thinking at all big enough. And so we need to, now that we're in a room of other people like us, we realize, oh, there's a new level to play. And we've got to level up, and we can be the worst player at the next level. That's totally fine. We're not beating ourselves up for that. It's just a new level that we get to learn. And so, yes, there's tension of playing that level, but it's useful tension. It motivates us and helps us to achieve new levels, which forces us to level up the team, because you have to. The team has to level up in order to get those results. So again, I guess it all kind of is full circle for me in terms of defining the results. So any final thoughts just kind of on that concept of you need something to sometimes, pull yourself out of your own world, because it just gets too, you just start realizing I'm trying to figure out the right way, but you're in your own little bubble, I guess, right? Without realizing that you need tension to break out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I was thinking about wartime versus peacetime. Peacetime was like, we're okay with the result. We were okay with the result no matter what last year, because we were like, we're just trying to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Not exactly like that, but like now we're not okay with the result, and we're motivated, and we're creating that tension, that conflict internally, creating that spark to move us forward, and not deferring and leading. And that's huge, right? Like we are like, hey, I want to, like, we're going to lead ourselves to the next generation of where we are, because we are existentially threatened in our business, and every business is existentially threatened right now. And like, that was we were in a room, and that was the wake up call. Like, we had the wake up call, but we needed to hear it, and we needed to both be there at the same time in order to do that. And we both needed to be like, you know what? We're screwed in 3 years anyway. We don't need to hold on to what's there. We need to make sure that we're alive in 3 years. We're around in 3 years. So let's go do it. Let's go make that happen. And that's the war. Like, that's the rallying cry. That's not peaceful at all, but it actually, it's, I'm having so much fun. I'm excited about it.
It is feeling weird to say that, because you're right. I'm the same way. It's like, this is a lot more energetic,
because we like to solve problems, and we weren't solving problems by maintaining the status quo. All we were trying to do is hold on. we're like holding on for dear life when the reality is that that's not even what we need to do anymore. We need to push forward.
Yeah, it's let go and fly, let go and fly. And that's kind of where we are now, which is absolutely awesome. Well, thank you for that. Hopefully, dear listener, you've got a good new thought or two that has come through this. Because remember, at the end of the day, that's what the Profit School podcast is here for. It's what Profit School is here for, is to help you think differently, help you take different actions, help you get different results. So share this conversation. Anything you picked up, teach to others, talk about it with other people. If you can recommend the Profit School podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. And with that, this wraps up the Business Unfiltered conversation. Thanks again for listening to the Profit School podcast. Obviously, share what you've learned, and be sure to check us out over at profitschool.com. Join the community there. Rate and review on your favorite podcast platform, and we will see you on the next episode.
In summary, managing tension effectively requires a combination of the right strategies, tools, and mindset. By understanding the symptoms and causes of tension, leveraging tools like AI, and focusing on clear communication and defined results, you can create a more productive and engaged team. Thanks for watching, and if you have any experiences or tips for handling tension on your team, please leave them in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about building a high-performing team and leveraging AI, be sure to check out profitschool.com, where we dive deeper into the world of business optimization. Remember to share the podcast and talk about what you've learned with others to integrate this thinking into your own business. You can rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. And of course, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel as well if you aren't already subscribed.